7 p.m, so we'll bring the meeting to order. Any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device should mute it to avoid feedback. Any remote participants, please keep your camera and microphone off unless you wish to speak, and ideally do not use the camera facilities as it can affect the quality of the IT connection. The meeting may be recorded, and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's websites. Members accessing the meeting remotely should use their SBC or KCC laptop to participate virtually. If you join using the link on the website or on a mobile or tablet device, it is not always possible to identify you, and you may not be recorded as in attendance. Please can I ask members to speak loudly and clearly into their microphones and to switch their microphones off after speaking, otherwise remote participants may be unable to hear the next speaker. So welcome members and officers and any members of the public to the Audit Committee meeting. The following staff are in attendance either in the chamber or remotely. Director of Resources Lisa Fillery, Head of Finance and Procurement Claire Stanbury, Audit Planning Manager Mark Goodwin, Audit Delivery Manager Catherine Byford. We should have the Audit Manager from Grant Thornton, Richmond Nyarko, Senior Audit Manager from Grant Thornton Matt Dean, and Billy Attaway from Democratic Services. I don't see any other members in attendance.
I've just had Richmond is. Looks like Richmond is off sick.
Okay. Thank you. And
And Matt's trying to dial in. That's good. Okay.
I don't. Is Matt in yet or?
No. Can you try and dial in?
Yeah. It's just. Is it Matt? What's his email? Can I just double check?
Matt.Dean
Matt.Dean.
at GT. No, at uk.gt.com.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are members all aware of the evacuation procedures?
Yes,
Anyone need any assistance? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Yeah, just follow me. I'll be the first one out the door.
No, I think I have to make sure that you're all out, so I'll be last.
Are there any apologies for absence and substitutes, please, Billy?
Thank you, Chair. There's apologies for absence for Councillor Derek Carnell, who's substituted by Councillor Chris Palmer, Councillor Mike Henderson, who's substituted by Councillor Claire Martin, Councillor Richard Lehman, but he's online virtually, and apologies from Councillor Dolly Wooster.
Lovely, thank you. We'll move on to the minutes of the Audit Committee. Of the 23rd of October. Are you all in agreement that those minutes are a correct record? Yep. Thank you. I'll sign those shortly. Are there any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. My capacity as Chairman of Spell Community Leisure, should anything come up on that agenda item or on that subject tonight, I feel it just, I would abstain from any decision on that.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Right, before I start on the substantive agenda, I believe you've all got a copy of agenda item number 9 in front of you. Has everyone actually had a chance to view that online previously, or would you like a few minutes to just read the paper copy? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on. All the items on tonight's agenda are Part B for decision by the Audit Committee. In consultation with Lisa, I've agreed to reorder the agenda. So we will now move on to take agenda item number 7 first.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, Catherine Woodward is unable to attend tonight, and I'm presenting her report, which is agenda item 7 of your agenda packs, shown on pages 37 to 46. And this is the internal audit progress report for 23-24. This report summarises the work towards completing 23-24 audit and assurance plan that the committee agreed back in March. There are 3 main sections of this report that I would like to go through with you this evening: resources, audit progress and follow-up work. The first area of resource need can be found on page 41. As has been described at previous meetings, the resourcing of the team has presented us some challenges. However, we've made some decent progress in recruiting to some of our vacant posts. We do still have some vacancies, and we are currently utilising a contractor to assist us with the delivery of this year's plan. We may have to increase the use of that contract as we progress through the year, but this will still be within our allocated budget. The second area of audit plan progress can be found on pages 42 to 43. The first table at point 13 shows audit work that was brought forward from last financial year. These couple of audits were completed and will feed into the annual audit opinion for 23-24. The second table at point 14 details the audits that are on this year's audit plan. You can see there are a number of audits currently underway which will be completed by the end of the year, and we will continue to review the remaining audits with a view to completing with support from our contractor. The third area of follow-up work is on page 44. When each audit is completed, a management action plan is also completed and agreed. In the annual audit opinion report, it was highlighted that due to resourcing constraints, follow-up work had been paused. We've now commenced following up on actions identified for each audit. We're working a little bit more closely with the management team to review the progress on implementing actions raised. And at the moment, this is a slightly new process, and we're sort of bedding it in, and we'll continue to do that. The table at point 23 details all of the actions that were raised in previous years and those that are outstanding. You can see from this, or the report says that there's a total of 4 actions that were outstanding. My apologies, I've checked this and it should be 3 that are outstanding. And again, we're working closely with management team to address these outstanding issues, working towards their implementation. We're bringing quarterly information to these groups so that they can monitor to ensure accountability for completing the actions. Again, as I mentioned, it's a revised process, and so we'll continue to look at that and get it embedded. The report is presented to members for their information and noting, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Lovely, thank you. I have, well, getting lots of hands up now. I have Councillor Harrison first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I accept that you've had resourcing issues in audit, and of course local government has had resourcing issues for many years. However, when we set up the Audit Committee all those years ago, a founder member is sitting here, we were in a position where there were many outstanding actions from audit reports. We as councillors took the matter extremely seriously, and what we said is, if it's outstanding after 6 months, I expect the manager to be, let's be blunt, hauled before the committee to say why. Now, you've said out of the 4 outstanding actions in this report, there's now 3. So hopefully one of them is not from 2021. If it is, they're not only hauled before this committee, but hung, drawn and quartered. Because it is serious. Audit is a very serious matter. And our officers, our staff at SBC need to appreciate that we take these things very seriously, and that is why we implemented that procedure all those years ago. So, Chair, I would like us to reinstate that procedure, that where reports, actions from audit reports are outstanding, I'm not saying, oh, we disagree with it, but it's still there. I'm saying where you've accepted that there is a recommendation and you should be doing it, after 6 months, you get here and you tell us why you haven't done it. And that is a proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Well, as we have a proposal, do I have a seconder? Councillor Booth. Councillor Booth, you wanted to speak next.
Yeah, I'll speak to that if I can, Chairman. I concur totally with Councillor Harrison. And that opinion goes back, certainly with me, 16 years, close on 17 years. In a time when we had a scrutiny committee as well. And a comment I would make is that whilst the cabinet system is there for a reason, and each of those committee systems is there, fraudulent slip, each of those committees is self-scrutineering, or should be self-scrutineering. I understand it that audit plays an extremely important role within Swell Borough Council, or should. And it is at this committee that the deep dive scrutineering can take place. So I totally endorse the recommendation or the proposal, and I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Councillor No?
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Goodwin. It is understood. Sorry?
Sorry, this is on the proposal.
It's the same. Oh, sorry. No, this is a question for Mr. Goodwin.
All right, we'll take the proposal first and then I'll come back to you. Right, could you repeat the wording of your proposal, please, Councillor Harrison?
That where recommendations are outstanding after 6 months, recommendations for outstanding actions are outstanding after 6 months that have been accepted by the, what do we call it, service manager or whoever, that the service manager is brought before the committee to explain why that action has not been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. And those words are acceptable, Councillor Booth? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the proposal?
Just something to say on that. The timing of audit recommendations is driven by an implementation date sort of set by the service. So it's not necessarily always a question of we make a recommendation and then would expect that the action taken is done within 6 months. In some instances, the action can be taken, much shorter than that. In other instances, it might be sort of slightly longer than that. So I would say that the implementation is driven by the management as to when they can and when they feel they will be able to implement that action, rather than it just being a fixed 6-month period. We do, of course, always take a view, and it's a discussion as to the implementation of any agreed management action. We wouldn't want to make a proposal, for example, or enter into a discussion where we feel we've got a very present risk to a system, but we're not seeing any action taken on that for a year or 18 months, for example. But I just thought I ought to clarify that the process and how it works is not just a fixed 6 months, but it is a discussion and something that will be led primarily by the service.
Yeah, in which case I would suggest that the proposal is that it's outstanding 6 months after the agreed completion date.
That would be more suitable.
The point I'm trying to get at, Chair, is that we take audit extremely seriously. When we set this up all those years ago, on the advice of whoever the auditor was at the time, it was very lackadaisical, and there were so many outstanding actions because people didn't see it as important. Now, as I say, I've accepted that there has been a change, but reading this, and any Joe and Josephine public out there reading this says there's an outstanding action from 2021, what the hell are they playing at? That they ain't taking it seriously. And what I'm saying is, let's make sure that our staff know we take this seriously. I will say, I don't think there was one service manager came before the Audit Committee after we implemented that policy change all those years ago.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Angela. I'm just trying to make sure that we've got a data capture point. So if the recommendation has been agreed and we are those where we won't do it until next financial year on the final accounts, it won't be done in 6 months because that's not the time frame. So I think if you want to capture those that aren't being completed with it when they should be, if your 6 months is your deadline that you want to work to, then it's 6 months after the agreed deadline, because the recommendations and the agreed actions will have a time frame on them. And as I understand it, that they're the ones that you want to capture when they're not done within 6 months of when the agreed timing was.
I think my one stands for, as far as Lisa is concerned, Chair. I'd expect a letter to the committee members saying that one that's outstanding for me, I'm waiting till the end of the financial year and we're going to do X, Y and Z. Simple.
Well, that will be in the audit report. That will be in the audit findings, because the management, the recommendations from audit have a management response, and that management response will have a deadline to it. And if that's what you're trying to capture, when those deadlines are not achieved or are not hit, then that's what will come. That's when I would need to come to audit committee to say I've missed my deadline. Not ahead of that, or am I misunderstanding what you want?
There are a number of people here who haven't been here a number of years on audit committee. Well, there's a number of people here who haven't been on audit for years and years and years, like some of us have. So they probably haven't got a filing cabinet full of all these old audit papers, and they can refer back and say, oh yeah, we had that report then saying this is the end of their report and this is their recommendations. Do you get where I'm coming from? All we have as a committee is this. So if there's, you know, really good reasons why that one from 2021 was on there, I'd expect a little note there. But all I've got is this, plus 3 outstanding from 22-23. Now, if the auditor had put down, but one of those outstanding from 22-23 was actually agreed or presented on the, let's say, 23rd of March 23, then, well, that's still over 6 months. But you get where I'm coming from. All I've got is this.
But they're not technically
if officers can't give members the information to actually pad it out and make it realistic, i.e., and this is why this, and this is why that, and this is why the other, then I can't be taking information from officers, oh yeah, by the way, this. I've made a proposal. I think it's valid. I think it will focus minds.
And I think what I'm trying very badly to say is that they're not outstanding if the deadline hasn't been missed.
Fair enough.
That's what, so
6 months of the deadline then.
thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Angela's quite right in some respect, but I think the officer has summed it up. Because if you've got a deadline of 18 months, then the deadline, once that deadline's been reached, that's when something should tick in. Now, 6 months after that deadline might be personally a bit of a long time, but there is a proposal on the table of that. So I can see it logical that it should be after, if Angela, after the deadline. And it wouldn't be, and I think it is in the report, that they give small updates of it's progressing on time, sort of thing. So I could go with the amended version of the proposal if that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm getting really confused here now. So the wording of the wording of the proposal you outlined, Councillor Harrison, is that the wording we're still going with, or is there an amended set of words?
Within 6 months of the deadline for the action to have been implemented.
Or completed? You want implemented?
Well, it's the same thing.
Implemented
Right,
or completed?
Completed, okay.
Completed.
Bearing in mind, and I'm very respectful, an audit review can take 3 weeks or it can take 2 years, depending on the subject matter. So we need to have a degree of flexibility. I'm happy with that, implemented and or completed.
Thinking on what Councillor Harrison proposed, I would be happier with 6 months of completion if the proposer is happy with that, rather than implementation. Is that acceptable, Councillor Harrison? Yeah. Right. Okay, so what Councillor Harrison said, but with the specifics that it is on 6 months after completion. I believe I'm understanding that rightly. So all those in favour? Please show. That's unanimous. Thank you, members. Right, we move back to the substantive agenda item then. And I had Councillor No wanted to speak on that, and then Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this question is for Mr. Goodwin. I apologize in advance if my voice breaks. I just had a straightforward question, actually. I do understand that there are staffing issues, but looking at this list is quite shocking. We're very close at the end of 23-24. Are any of these items expected to be completed by the end of that period?
Yes, they are. Apologies. Yes, they are, Councillor. Where we've got, for example, works in progress, draft report self-explanatory. They're all audits where the work is now in traction. The audit process sometimes does take a little while to gather pace, but for the items certainly mentioned where it's got works in progress, a brief has now been agreed. Field work is being completed against those items, so there will be a final report which can contribute towards the opinion for this year. I can also update to say that we've had a discussion with the contractor that we're using, so they've indicated that they've got capacity to also undertake the review on land charges. The item compliance with computer use policy, that will be a piece of work that will be delivered by a member of the team also. So I can give some assurances, and in discussion with Catherine, she's confident that work is progressing, which will allow her to issue an opinion at the end of the year.
And the audit year doesn't run, our audit plan year doesn't run exactly with our financial year. So this isn't until the end of March. It does run beyond that to form the audit opinion for 23-24, which is also why some of the lag from the previous audits. And so those audits that are badged as 22-23 will form part of the 23-24 programme, because there is a rolling programme of audits. And as long as there's enough of an opinion within the year that Kathy can use to give us her opinion, then it's the audits that were done in that period. But it doesn't run to the end of March.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Booth.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. In a similar vein, with respect, I'm disappointed that this is the first time we see this in the new calendar year, and there are holes in it. I think we have a responsibility to demonstrate to the public that we have a very firm grip of audit, and I don't believe that shows that, particularly with the holes that aren't populated in the current position column. I don't accept staff shortages. I really don't. I think there is always an alternative. There is an alternative. In a different place in the private sector, that would not be acceptable on a boardroom table, I can assure you. So whilst it's gently we need to address the situation, I think sometimes we need some quite hard and frank conversations about where we're going with that, and to demonstrate to the public, the taxpayers, that we have a firm grip of it. That's that one covered. Who is the contractor? Can you name that, or would that be under private session? That's my last question.
Yeah, we can name them Verital. They're a...
Fairy tale, did you say?
No, I said Verital. They're an audit firm. They're set up specifically for local audit.
Right, okay.
And we did go out to... Mid Kent went out to audit, went out to procurement for that contract.
Thank you. How are you spelling that? Sorry.
V-E-R-T.
V-E-R-I-T-A-U.
ITAU.
That's it, Verital.
Thank you.
Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, I did wonder if the officer might have come back. He said that the total outstanding actions is now 3, not 4. Where was the one knocked off or completed?
I think that was a mistake in drafting the report, and it related to a audit that was completed on website and accessibility. I think originally when the numbers were calculated, it was shown that there were 3 outstanding actions relating to that audit. When I've subsequently looked at it, that should have been 2 outstanding actions relating to that audit.
So, Chair, the one from 2021 is still outstanding? And if that is the case, well, heads need to roll somewhere along the line. I mean, this isn't a jolly chat, and if you fancy doing it, do it. An audit recommendation, unless they've specifically said, and we ain't doing it because, serious, 2021, that's 3.5, 4 years.
So do we know what this outstanding action is from 2021?
That outstanding action relates to some work on developer income. Obviously, that was an audit within the area of planning where I understand there's been a lot of change at Swale within that particular service area. The recommendation, the work was linked with Section 106 contributions. The recommendation was around monitoring of non-financial contributions. And we found that that wasn't particularly present in the arrangements that we were looking at. I believe that hasn't certainly been forgotten by the service, but there's some restructure going on within that service too, which will again sort of pick up on that and address it and make sure how it that it is done in future. Lisa may be able to elaborate on that. Sorry.
Sorry, I know I don't know the details behind that. But we can obviously find out and come back.
That doesn't sound very acceptable to me at all. I think we need to haul the head of planning services before this committee to explain why that body of work hasn't been completed with the audit team. So I'd like the head of planning services before this committee at the next meeting, please. Councillor Booth.
Yeah, Chairman, you'll have to bear with me. The next meeting is a quarter of the year away, is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct, Councillor Booth.
Does this committee have the facility to call an extraordinary meeting? Yes. I'm just conscious of time, and I'm conscious of what can happen in the next 3 months. I think it would be appropriate, given the gravity of what we've just been discussing, that's then brought forward as an extraordinary meeting of this committee.
Is that a proposal?
That is a proposal.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
Obviously, work will have to be done through DEM services to agree a date, hopefully when officers are here.
Yeah, actually, I quite agree with you. Maybe I should have thought of that and brought that suggestion forward. But thank you for that, Councillor Booth. So, Billy, can we work with the head of finance and the head of planning to pencil in a meeting as soon as possible, please?
Yeah, I'm sure we can get something.
Certainly, I would hope. Well, I would expect before the end of February at the very latest.
Chair.
Thank you.
Chair.
All those in favour of? Yeah, Councillor Palmer. Sorry.
Could I make a suggestion on date? I mean, we might be out of time because of the notice, but could we do it before either a P&R committee or full council, and have an extraordinary one before full council? So it's
on the 31st.
Yeah, so it's a bit tight for time, isn't it?
There's already a special P&R before full council on the 31st.
I don't think it would be possible to get it in before that, would it, Billy? No.
No, we've missed the 5 deadline day, 5 working days.
No. So it would have to be after the sort of first week after full council, if possible.
Yeah, we'll have to have a chat.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as soon as practicably possible within the diary, the head of planning services to be brought before a special audit committee meeting. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, members. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to the substantive agenda item and the recommendation on page 37? Okay. So do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Booth, Councillor Palmer second, Councillor Richard Palmer. So all those in favour of the recommendation that the work completed so far on the 2023-24 audit and assurance plan be noted. That's unanimous. Thank you, members. So we now go back to agenda item number 5. On page 5. So, Claire, is it you?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Treasury Management Strategy Report, which is a report that comes to Audit Committee each year to recommend the Treasury Management Strategy for the following financial year to the Policy and Resources Committee. Policy is reviewed and agreed each year. The strategy sets out how we will manage our cash balances over the year, borrowing when required to finance our capital spend, and then also investing cash balances in a secure way when we have a surplus of cash, obviously ensuring security of those funds and liquidity above all else. There are no proposed changes in the strategy itself compared to last year, and the strategy sets out the indicators that we will abide by over the year ahead within Appendix 1. Happy to take any questions.
Claire. Councillor Harrison.
It's not so much a question, Chair, as a comment. We were not that sure at the time about the CCLA, but I'm glad we stuck with it because that's I think that's come leaps and bounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Anyone else wish to speak to agenda item number 5? So the recommendation is to recommend policy... Councillor Booth, sorry.
Sorry, I was late, Chairman. Page 18, just for one of those kind of blind spot moments, can you identify the capital expenditure and financing with regards to reserves from 23-24 up to 26-27, third line from the bottom? Big page 18, sorry, big page 18. One that starts background and then gross debt and capital.
I don't have the detail with me tonight, Councillor Booth, so I'll take that away and come share the information with the committee. That will be in as per the budget that's been agreed, the capital programme that was approved by Council in February, and it will relate to spend that has got a supporting reserve or where the reserves are funding the proposed capital spend.
Okay, thank you. And supplementary to that, can you confirm what the current reserve level is of the council?
The details that were published at the end of March, because with the reserve balances are not updated on a monthly basis, it's done at year end generally.
Ballpark figure?
I can look that one up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Anyone else? So the recommendation is to recommend to Policy and Resources Committee the Treasury Management Strategy 24-25 and the Prudential and Treasury Management Indicators. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
I've got an answer.
Lisa.
Yeah, so at the close of play, March 23, our general fund balance was at 3.1 million, and our unring-fenced reserves, but earmarked, were 13.7, and then those that were ring-fenced for things like the collection fund grants and disabled facilities grants was 1.4. So the figure.
Sorry, Chairman, that's virtually a year ago.
Yes.
What's your take on that as of today?
That we will, if everything that is planned to be spent, it will be down to the general reserve will stay the same, and the
3.1?
Yes, and the earmarked reserves will be down to 13.2. That's if everything that is in the plan is spent.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Lisa. Right, so we now move on to agenda item number 6 on page 23. Is that you again, Claire?
It's me again. Thank you, Chair. So this is the half-year report for 23-24 in respect of Treasury Management. And this is providing you with an update on the performance of our Treasury Management function for that first half year. It's important that we have an effective Treasury Management function to ensure that we manage the finances and cash flows in an effective way whilst ensuring that risks are controlled as far as possible. It's continued to be a difficult time economically with further increases in the Bank of England base rate. However, for Swale, that has been to our advantage due to our current low level of borrowing. Inflation has continued to fall, but during the first half of 24-25, it did prove to be sticky and coming down slower than was anticipated. During the first 6 months, we held borrowing of £5 million and invested excess cash for relevant time periods to manage our cash flow. The average daily cash balance over that period was just under £20 million. The cash balance position is expected to decrease in the second half of the year due to expenditure on our capital programme. Appendix 1 shows the investment and borrowing balances as at the 30th of September, And Appendix 2 shows the performance of the Treasury function against the indicators that were agreed in February 2023. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Big page 31, please, under Appendix 2. Can you just give us a quick outline as to what the capital financing requirements are, as in what that's allocated to for particularly 24-25, please?
So the capital financing requirement is sort of the cumulative effect of past capital spend. And then obviously that's got further increases built in future years. So the increase, particularly for 24-25, will be for the borrowing required for the purchase of our waste vehicles.
Thank you.
Any other members? Questions? No. Okay, so the recommendation is to note the performance information in this report and to note the prudential and treasury management indicators within the report. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Booth, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Martin, thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, members. So we now move on to agenda item number 8 on page 47. Big page 47, that is. And that would be Matt, I believe. So
Thank
good
you.
evening, Matt.
Evening all evening. Thank you for having us along. So yeah, so this is our third auditor's annual report, which I guess is our report. It's our report on the council's value for money arrangements for the year 22-23. I guess we're a little bit in arrears of where the financial year was because of the decoupling that the NEO took place a couple of years ago. I think in overall terms, it feels a reasonably positive report, given where the council is and the broader financial environment that we're seeing in the press on a day-to-day basis. If you start with page big 53 of the pack, you'll sort of see our executive summary, and I guess whilst intrinsically it might look, I guess, that things have deteriorated given we go from right to left, that there's, I guess there were at least one green last year, but there's all amber this year. I think in overall terms, last year there were 6 recommendations that were raised, whereas this year we're down to 3. So I think in overall terms that feels a positive movement. And on big pages 74 and 75, there's more detail around the recommendations from last year and where those sit currently. If I take the sort of the current year's position in a little bit more detail in terms of the sort of financial sustainability, I don't think there's not significant weaknesses within the council's arrangements. I think the council delivered a balanced position at the end of the 22-23 financial year, and is forecasting the same at the end of 23-24, which I think is commendable given the broader challenges. Our recommendation in that area is almost kind of a bit of a carry on from what was raised in the previous year, just around making sure that, I guess it's the budget setting process is as transparent as possible. I think we've spoken to Lisa and Claire and others at length, and we're comfortable that certainly within the council there's a strong process in place. It's just a question as to whether members might find it helpful to have a little bit more of that in the public domain. But again, that's one for you as an authority to take forward. In terms of governance, we've again said strong, relatively strong arrangements in place around decisions are made and managing risks. The recommendation in there, I won't dwell too much on it, given the discussion around internal audit earlier. I think we recognise, as auditors, we recognise the challenge around staffing and those kind of things, and it's one of those things. I guess we have to say, I don't particularly enjoy saying it, and obviously the conversation you've had on the earlier agenda item, it's reassuring to show that that's been taken seriously. And then finally, under the 3 E's, or improving economy, efficiency and effectiveness, again, strong arrangements in place in there. All we've really done is highlight work that was done as part of the LGA peer review. Obviously, there's a clear action plan that's in place that's obviously on the council's website. Again, all we've really done is just sort of redraw the reader's attention to that sort of action plan and making sure that the authority continues to work towards resolving those issues, which, you know, I think again is pleasing to say, because we're not saying anything additional that you don't already know as an authority. So there's a lot more detail in the rest of the report. If I just quickly jump to big page 74, which just summarises the recommendations from the prior year, conscious of the discussion earlier around follow-up. You know, generally it's a positive picture. So 4 of the 6 have been, we've been able to clear. Recommendation 1 we've effectively kind of rolled into this year's recommendation around financial sustainability, and I think it's one of those things. I guess we're very much in ideal world best practice kind of process. I don't think we're certainly not saying the council's arrangements are poor by any stretch. It's just something that you may want to consider enhancing. And the 4th recommendation was one I said that Darren, my predecessor, made in 23 around independent members. I think we've kind of left that there, conscious of where the political cycle is, just to kind of say, well, you know, depending on where any election might land, you know, just they may wish to consider that. But, you know, again, I'm not going to make a big deal of that because of the nature of the recommendation, and obviously we respect the view of the current committee, and obviously it's just understanding what any future committee might wish to do. So that was all I wanted to say in terms of the report. Of course, happy to take any questions on any of the detail.
Lovely, thank you, Matt. I've got Councillor Harrison first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did mention I was here on the setup, and every couple of years we have this audit recommendation that we should have independent members on the Swale Borough Council Audit Committee. Every couple of years it comes up, and that's sitting there, and either we deal with it tonight, and I'm quite happy to make a proposal, or we have a specific question on the next audit committee so we can get rid of it for this civic cycle. I was elected to Swale Borough Council, as was the other 6 people in this room, in May 23. I was asked to sit on this audit committee. I have a vested interest in looking after the residents of the Borough of Swale, and that's why I'm really keen on audit, blah, 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 blah. I don't want an independent person on here. I don't think that they will add anything. I think we need to get rid of this once and for all, well, at least for the 4 years of this current council, as we got rid of it for the last council and the council before that and the council before that. But the auditors keep raising it as if some independent person is going to be a panacea. It isn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at big page 60, financial sustainability continued. Can you just explain the table on the right-hand side, how the financial position in 2021-22 is 15.6 million, and in 22-23 it says 5.166 million, please?
So yes, of course, that is just the council's cash balance at the 31st of March in those years. So at the end of 21-22, the council held 15.6 million of cash, and that had reduced to 5.1 at the end of 22-23. But I'm sure, as Lisa would explain, you know, the cash, you know, it's just one of those things we measure, particularly with going concern and those kind of things. We just mentioned it. We're not saying there's a particular problem. We're just saying that's a metric, and obviously that's part of that broader treasury management, which Claire talked through in the previous agenda. So it's just one of those things that we tend to draw out, because obviously cash is king in general terms. But yeah, that's how that's moved during the course of the year.
Sorry, so that bottom line figure then is not related to the actual capital spend and the actual revenue expenditure.
No. I don't. If you're following, yeah, it doesn't flow down, I guess, like a set of accounts. Yep. Those are just some of the key metrics that we've decided to draw out. So yeah, we can obviously make that clearer going forward. But yeah, they're standalone items effectively.
Cool. I get that. I'm just inquisitive as to where the 10 million's gone.
It's just part of the annual cash flow. That balance fluctuates at the end of each year, and whether we decide to take borrowing out or not, we decided to maintain our cash balances at lower levels this year because the borrowing rates had gone up. So we had enough money to maintain our cash flow position, so that is just the operating balance that we had at the end of the year. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Confused, Councillor.
No, there's no confusion, I can assure you, Chairman. What I'll do, I'll take the lead from Councillor Harrison and I will go back to my filing cabinet and see what it was in the previous decade. Because respectfully, it doesn't ring true to me, but there you go.
It's been audited. These are the audited figures, so these are exactly true and have been proved by the auditors. So I'm not sure that I'm actually that happy with that remark. Sorry, Chair.
Do you want to come back? Or? No, it doesn't warrant. Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak to? Any questions for the external auditors?
Chair, what about my proposal? If
I
you
was
want
just
me
going to come to
make
you
it?
on
Okay.
that, Councillor Harrison. So, yeah, Councillor Harrison, your proposal is?
Well, my proposal is that for this 4-year council cycle, which takes us up to May 27, this audit committee does not wish to have independent people. Does not wish to include independent people on it.
Do I have a seconder for that proposal? I'm looking at anyone.
I'm happy to speak to it. I'd like to understand why, because this was something that was on the original agenda pack as something that was discussed April, May time last year, that we had 2 independent people.
And we said no, but
What,
it's
at that
still
time?
sitting there. It's still sitting there. That's what I said. The auditors, the external auditors fetch this up every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because they've decided that we should have them.
Jim. Yeah.
And we, as councillors, over all the time they've been pushing it, I mean, at one point, they suggested we cut the pay of our staff because we were paying our staff too much. We put them straight there. You know, you make your recommendations, we knock it on the head, you take it away. You don't keep leaving it there thinking we'll keep whittling away at the councillors, the elected councillors. You know, except we made a decision and go away.
Yeah,
one moment, Darren. I've got Councillor Palmer I'd like to bring in first.
I mean, this is the first time on Audit Committee this year, so I'd like to know the rationale for having independent people, if there is a rationale to it. But at the moment, there's been a proposal, but it hasn't been seconded. So should we be talking to it until it's had a seconder? Thank you.
Well, probably not. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor.
You do, Chairman. Yeah, just to keep the ball rolling.
So we've now had 2 speakers actually speak to the motion, even though we now have a seconder. Darren, would you care to comment? Then I'll bring.
It's Matt.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Yeah, that's fine.
With
Yeah,
Darren on the
that's
brain
fine.
for some reason.
Well, it's because I mentioned it was Darren. So Darren originally would have raised this 12 months ago. I mean, I've picked it up. I probably, if I'm being honest, if I'd have known quite how clear the feedback was 12 months ago, I probably would have addressed it accordingly. To be honest, I mean, I have no problem with your recommendation. SITFA, as the standard setter for local authorities, have a view that bringing in independent members from outside the authority who may be able to, I guess, provide, in their view, a broader, wider set of skills than may normally be available to the audit committee can help governance and oversight. Completely respect your decision as an authority to say actually we're comfortable with who we have. So I say I have no issue with the proposed recommendation. I'm completely comfortable with that, and rest assured I'm carrying on in this role next year, so I will make sure that is cleared and we won't be saying that certainly in 12 months' time.
Lovely, thank you, Matt. So we have a proposal which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you very much, members. So we move back to the substantive recommendations on big page 47. That members are asked to note the external auditor's report appendix 1 and 2, consider the recommendations set out within the auditor's annual report and note the management's responses. All those in favour? Oh, do I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Seconder. Councillor Palmer, thank you. All those in favour? Okay, thank you, members. That's unanimous. We now move on to agenda item number 9. And Claire again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the external auditor's audit findings report came to this committee in October 23. October 23. The audit work wasn't completely finished at that point, and there was one further finding that came out of that remaining work. That is detailed on page 28 of their report. I'm just going to try and find big page number. Thank you. So big page 112 is the findings that came about after the report came here in October 23. So this is really for your information to update you with the findings from that work. It hasn't changed the overall audit opinion, and it's an unadjusted misstatement on the accounts that has nil overall impact.
Thank you, Claire. Any questions? Councillor Booth?
Yeah, not a question, Chairman, a comment that I applaud the cost and keeping the costs as keen as it is. Again, in the private sector, you're talking a substantial amount of money for this kind of audit work. So I'm happy for that, and yeah, I applaud the document.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Okay, so we have, if no one else wishes to speak to this agenda item, we have the recommendation that members are asked to note the updated external auditor's audit findings, report appendix 1. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Palmer. Seconder. Councillor Martin, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Matt, I'd like to thank you and Grant Thornton for all your work over the last audit. Thank you to all our officers and our internal auditors for all their hard work. Lastly but not leastly, Democratic Services officers. And thank you, members. I close the meeting at 19.